Hello, everybody. This is Sue Frederick, and I want to have a mystical conversation with you, the kind where we lose ourselves in the wonders of divine mysteries, share dreams from the other side, intuitive nudgings, and soul mission yearnings. Let's look at life from the soul's perspective. That is my favorite thing to do in the world. I'm the author of 11 books, including Through a Divine Lens and Sacred Numerology Workbook. I'm a lifelong intuitive, a master numerologist, ordained unity minister, and soul regression therapist. But I am most excited tonight about introducing my beautiful guest and really good friend. Pulling up her bio here. She is a great friend, and she is a multifaceted practitioner with an abundance of spiritual expertise. As a certified medium, angel intuitive, and spiritual coach, she navigates the realms beyond our physical existence. You can see why we're good friends. Additionally, Michelle brings her gifts as a medical intuitive and energetic healer to illuminate the paths of healing and self-discovery. Having survived 3 near-death experiences and having had 2 shared death experiences, Michelle's journey is marked by resilience and profound transformation. Michelle is excited to share new information about soul plans, shared death experiences, and navigating the delicate landscape surrounding suicide. So I want you to meet my beautiful friend who you've met before on this podcast. We've done 2 other previous ones, but tonight's topic is about, can we rewrite our soul plans and how does that work? And Michelle and I just sort of walked through that process when I went through my own dark night of the soul. So, Michelle, say hello.
Hello, I am so happy to be here with you tonight.
So, Michelle, start by telling us your understanding or experiences with the soul plan, and is it possible to rewrite it? Can everyone rewrite it? Or are our challenges and exit points written in stone?
Yeah, I love that. That's a big question. Here is my understanding of it from spirit world. We do come in with a blueprint, and this blueprint is about 60 to 70% set in stone. So think about it as the foundation for the house, where the walls are going to go. What does that kind of look like? The structure of it. But once we get to planet Earth, we now have 30 to 40% of free will. We have agreements that we will bring in during the lifetime that we didn't agree to previous the incarnation. And we also have agreements that we will adjust and shift. And so, yeah, we all come in with the soul plan, but it's definitely adjustable. There will be some hurdles or some challenges that are not avoidable. But with the free will of the soul and the free will we have as humans, we still have room to bring things in, to navigate it better.
I love the way you put that. I've always said that everything here on earth is an interplay of free will and destined soul mission. And what I mean when I'm talking about that is that we do have some challenges that are set in stone, I believe, but the way that we hit up against them, our energy that we bring to them, the light that we look for in the midst of those experiences can lift us over them in a much more graceful and less painful way than if we only bring fear and anger and doubt into every painful situation. Is that sort of what you feel, or what are your feelings about that?
Yeah, I definitely feel that that's a huge part of our free will is our perspective, right? Because that's where we really have the opportunity to empower or disempower ourselves, deciding on how we want to see that situation. From my experience, right, when we have experienced near-death experiences, those are possible exit points that were written into our blueprint before we come here. But sometimes we're given the option, do you want to stay or do you want to go? And so in those moments, we know that we have an agreement that is changing. And a lot of times the people who have those experiences come back saying, okay, I know now there's a bigger plan for me, or I saw that the meaning of life is love. But they come back with this greater knowledge and this greater message to share.
Yeah. Well, let's bring it down to the real right now. There's two things I'm thinking of. One is that in March and April, you were at my side when I was diagnosed with colon cancer. It was a big shock, I think, to everybody. And you spent a lot of time helping me through it, talking to me and doing energy work with me. Um, in particular, you and I were talking recently about this one particular night because I had a diagnosis on March 22nd. I always say 22 is a very important day for me. It's a master soul number and it's my path, the 22. So I was diagnosed on a 22. And to me, that meant, whoa, this is part of your soul plan, you know? And then you and I and many other friends who are so enlightened were talking about, is this a hard exit or is this a reinvention point? Like, what does this look like through the soul? And I remember in particular the time gap between the diagnosis and surgery. It was, I don't know, 5 or 6 days maybe, or maybe more. I can't remember. It's all a blur, but it was long enough for my mind to start getting into fear about it. And I remember I called you. The surgery was on an early Friday morning, and I called you on a Wednesday and I said, I'm just really battling my fear. And you showed up and you did energy work. And why don't you talk about what happened for you in that experience?
Right. So for me, obviously, it was just an honor to be able to support you through this experience. So let me say that I deeply love you. But when I showed up that day, there was a part of me that wasn't sure what you were going to decide to do. I definitely felt like there was wiggle room, but I felt like it could go either way at that point in time. And what I remember is as I was doing the energy work on you and really just calling in your angels, and I felt Mother Mary come in. And as I felt that beautiful energy arrive in the room, I really had this awareness of like, oh, this is not set in stone. And that your soul had the power to usher in what we would call a miracle, if you so chose to do that for the next stage of your life. And so it was very clear to me that this was a soul level decision that was not etched in stone or concrete, and you had some free will that you were going to be working with to decide what you wanted to do.
Yeah. That's just so beautiful because your energy work really helped me that night. And by the time you left, I felt very at peace and very filled with love. And as you also know, I was making arrangements already to try to change parts of my life that I knew needed to change if I were going to stay in this lifetime, and changing the way I work and getting rid of some of the burden of seeing too many clients, you know, and just feeling that I need to be using my energy for bigger classes and groups, but not so many individual clients. And so I was negotiating with my soul about changing it because I know that as a 22/4, I get lost in the 4, which is the hunker down, hard work energy, whereas the 22 is enlightened and light and feeling the bigger picture and focused on the bigger idea of shifting consciousness. So I was trying to shift from the 4 to the 22. And I remember you said something to me, like you came to see me. I think was it the night after surgery that you came to the hospital?
Yeah, I was there after surgery that day and that night.
Right. And I remember that night, again, you were working with me energetically and fixing my energy so much. And I think at that point, but you tell me, I think I knew at that point that I was staying and that the miracle had occurred. What was your feeling or your memory of that?
That was my feeling too. We didn't get all the information yet. The doctor still had to, finish pathology or the testing that they had. But my feeling at that point in time was you were in the clear, and I felt like that was coming through on a soul level. And with that, the energy that I really felt from spirit around you was that you had recommitted to this lifetime, maybe from a different angle, like not as much work, but committed to it. And you have said, no, I want to be here. I'm claiming this. There was a part of your soul that I want to use that word. You claimed it. You
Yeah.
claimed your life back.
That's such a good insight, Michelle, because we were so close. I was often tired and exhausted by life and work, and kind of blaming it on my heart condition. And gee, turned out not to be my heart condition, but it turned out to be my soul fatigue. And, cancer deciding that, gee, this is how we'll do this soul reinvention. We'll have colon cancer, which is the thing Paul died from in 1980, which I always said I would never get because his suffering was off the charts and I never wanted to walk a journey like that. And you said at the time, make sure this is not you deciding that you're going to suffer for Paul or something. Do you remember saying that?
I do, because I could feel that strong connection. And it almost felt like, and I want to say it really delicately, but it was almost like a loyalty energy. Like there was this love and this loyalty to him. And so because of that, it might have been, and this is obviously not what Paul wanted for you, but
Right.
it was your way of being loving and loyal that you were like, and I too shall go through this. But what I loved is you flipped the script and you said, I too shall go through this and I shall prove it doesn't have to be the same outcome.
That's right. And nor the same suffering. And just to tell the listeners, I did have a miracle. The doctor called a few days later and said there was absolutely no spread anywhere. And then I had another kind of a genetic cancer test done a few weeks later, and again, negative for anything like that. So it is a miracle. Even the surgeon said that when she called with that news. So on that note, now, if you don't mind, I want to talk about your, I think, probably most perplexing question about soul agreements and soul plans as we approach the anniversary of Gary's exit. Do you want to talk about that or share that with the viewers?
Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to share that. So my life partner transitioned by suicide in August of 23. So we're getting ready to come up on the 1 year anniversary, and his birthday just passed. So there's a lot of emotion and a lot coming around right now. But when he transitioned, I really decided that I needed to dive deep into our soul plan to understand what that looked like. Because I, like every other human, it's hard to remember that I would have signed up for a
Right.
trauma like that. And some of the things that I've come to find is that nobody is destined to pass by suicide, that is a free will choice. I do believe he knew coming in that he was coming into some genetics that were going to be more likely to have depression and some challenges like that. But at the end of the day, what it really came down for with Gary and I was that I had been in a 25-year marriage previous to finding him. And in that marriage, I had never felt the amount of love that I had felt from him in the short time that we were together. And because of that, there was this part of my soul that had said, okay, I don't want you to go that way, but it is, I will be with you to show you that you are lovable and loved, and I will get that back from you too. And so there was this really truly beautiful agreement about love, that was really what brought us together, even though his transition went the way that it did.
Yeah. So when you look at just your soul plan part of that, do you think that you agreed to have, and it is a devastating loss, that would your soul take Gary out of the picture for a moment? Do you believe your soul agreed to have a devastating loss at this point in your life as you come out of divorce, as you're getting your new life going? did your soul choose that? And now a year from it, how has it opened you, pushed you to grow? Who are you now from that soul agreement?
Right. So I do not believe that was etched in stone, but I do believe my soul knew it was a strong possibility. And with that, I mean, what has transpired since then is I have been able to dive deeper into the understanding of suicide. I'm able to help more people and more clients. I've been able to actually still really have my own deep connection with Gary and really able to have this communication and know when he's around. And so there's a lot of this that if it had to happen to someone, I am somebody who can use it to help others just in my everyday life and my work as a medium.
That
So,
brings me to the point of, do we agree to pain and trauma not only to evolve our soul, but to be able to turn around? I mean, a healer is always only able to heal what they've walked through. And now you've always been an incredible healer and intuitive, but now you have a special ability to help clients who have lost someone through suicide, or perhaps connect with the spirits of those who have crossed that way. Would you say that's true?
yeah, I would absolutely say that's true. It's definitely as most tragedies do in this human realm causes us to grow and evolve to the next level. And that would be one of the gifts that came out of this for me is that I am able to go deeper into it and help more people with it with a very deep understanding of what this looks like and really able maybe to give people choices and tools to help themselves move through this process more gently and kind than are easy to find in our world.
And just reminding you that you're on the 11 Master Soul journey, right? The 11/2, and I'm on the 22/4. That's one of the reasons we get along so well, because our soul agreement is 33/6. Doesn't get better than that. And that's a very sacred, high frequency number. And so when I look at my life and all the grief and loss and all the things I went through, I'm very clear now that not only did I agree to that for my own growth, but I wanted to be able to help people. You and I have talked before that we came to Earth from the angelic realm. And I think we haven't spent a lot of time on Earth. I think this is maybe one of our first, second, or third lifetimes on Earth, and that we're still much more in touch with the angelic realm. Now, angels are healers, helpers. And so when we would come into this life, we would program not only our own growth, but suffering that would teach us the walk of the human journey so that we could really be profoundly helpful healers in the world in our unique ways. You're an 11 path master soul, Michelle, which right away means you're intuitive, of course, and psychic, of course, and connected to the God consciousness and the angels, but also now holding in your heart the depth of human pain of what you've walked through in order to serve the world for all those who suffer. Well done.
Thank you. You know, one of the interesting parts of my story, I don't necessarily remember all of my pre-birth plan, but I absolutely have clear memories from my third near-death experience when I was standing with my life guides. And they said, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay or do you want to go? And they said, if you go back, your marriage is probably going to end in divorce. You have more trauma coming. And so I have vivid memory, very clear of standing in that heavenly realm and saying, okay, I'll go back.
Such courage. That's when I met you, I just loved you right away. And I would say it was two qualities that jumped out right away. One is courage. I love people with courageous hearts, and I could just see and feel that about you right away. And that's one of the things I think that keeps us very connected. But the other piece of it is you're so deeply sensitive and so deeply intuitive, and you have a brilliant mind. You have a Gemini sun sign. I have a Virgo sun sign, very analytical mind. So our mental capacity of analyzing the world, we're kind of in sync that way. But then the ability to bring that into the soul's wisdom, into how we navigate this life with intuition. And I think one of the big pieces for my reinvention point that I'm here to live another, you told me I have to stay, what, 20 years? No, I'm not staying 20 years, but I'll take a decade,
I'm pushing
okay?
for 25.
So I think, for me, it's also that this experience, even though all my life I've used intuition to navigate, I used pure intuition to make every choice of this journey, this crisis for me, from what ER, which hospital are we going to? I had no connections really at any hospital, and I just felt and knew that where I had to go. And then going into it and going through the test, and then having surgeons come parading into my room, and I'm so Pisces emotional, Pisces rising, Pisces moon, that I would cry after they would leave because I knew they weren't right. And you intuitively connected me to another very famous local doctor who then connected me to this surgeon that I ended up falling in love with completely. And the minute she walked in the room, I knew the light was all around her. I knew she was my person. And I tell people that story, and they are amazed because most people, when they're facing a big health crisis, whoever walks in the room with a solution, they're going to probably say yes. So I'm just reminding people your intuition always is in charge if you let it be. And it's always going to help you find the light, the way through. And not only is a surgeon important because they're good at what they do, but because you've also got to have some kind of soul connection with them. And I think if we can make all of our choices that way, I mean, even if I had died at her hands, which was possibility, my soul was trusting her so much that I even said, live or die, it's by her hands, and that's okay with me. So for me, it was a marriage to my intuition and trusting that no matter what happens, it will always guide me through.
Yeah, absolutely. And, can you talk a little bit about what you did when you felt like you were renegotiating your agreement?
Yes. I love my work and I've seen clients for more than 20 years and I'm really good at it. And I'm booked with clients for a year and that's my income, you
You're the
know.
best.
Yeah. Well, I am good. Anything you're that dedicated to for that long, I think you get pretty good at, and I wouldn't have, if I wasn't good at it, I wouldn't have been able to build a business around it. But the other piece of it is that I'm also really good at the bigger picture of teaching, and of helping a larger group to learn and grasp something. And that at this phase in my life, that is less challenging on a day-to-day basis than running the minutia of a client business. And anybody out there and you do it, Michelle, sees clients, it's not just the client session. That's kind of the easy part. It's like all the things that have to be in place, the online calendar, the email correspondence, the payment, all these things. And I know I'm sounding like a lazy girl talking about this, but I did it for decades and decades. And finally, my soul was going, no, it has to be completely different now. It has to be lighter and easier. And so I have made every change possible to make that happen. And I feel so light. I feel so just energized in a different way now. Do you feel a difference in me that way?
Oh, I definitely do. Your energy feels lighter. Your energy started feeling heavier really to me around December.
Yeah.
That was kind of when I noticed, and it wasn't that you weren't still smiling and looking beautiful and showing up and being the amazing Sue that you are. You were, but there was a heaviness in your energy. And then as we got closer, it got heavier and heavier. But I didn't know the complications you were having, and you didn't either at that point.
Right, right. And it's funny because you and I spent the whole Sedona conference together, right, like a week before all this played out for me. And I remember like you would say, do you want to walk from the hotel to the convention center or do you want to drive? And I was like, drive, and it was like 2-minute drive. And I remember you kidding me or Jean kidding me, and saying, this is the old mountain climbing woman here who can't walk, a quarter of a mile. But that's kind of how I was feeling, and today I just want you to know I am doing 1.5 miles a day on my elliptical machine. So I'm feeling pretty good.
I love that. I love that. And I love that for you, you were able to, because when I've asked Spirit, what are miracles? Because I ask him that. Spirit tells me, Michelle, there's no such thing as miracles. We call them happenings. They happen when you get in alignment, body, mind, and spirit. And so really this miracle, as we call it in our human form, that you were able to bring into your life was you actually truly getting in alignment with your higher self and your purpose for being here.
And I think many of us, when we hit our 70s, have this kind of spiritual crisis that happens because I have a lot of clients and students in their 70s, and they all start out by saying, I just feel kind of like I don't know who I am anymore or why I'm here, even if they've had a very meaningful life and very purposeful. And I always tell people in numerology, you also have to look at the decade of age that you're in. So, for example, in our 70s, we are under the influence of the 7, and 7 is a spiritually reflective number, right? It's almost like doing a soul review of your life while you're still in your body. And it really happens in our 70s. And I was doing that. And I was thinking, I've kind of done everything I wanted to do. Like, why am I here? I was really asking that question of my soul. What is the reboot here? And I know that other people have asked this, so I'll just share it honestly. Like, who really needs me anymore? I can tell you every mom whose kids get launched and go off and have their own life, and their husband is just old and grumpy and getting along as best as he can, because that's what happens to us in our old age. We do start asking, does anyone need us here? And that answer came in all of this, that I was loved by you, Michelle, and all my Helping Parents Heal girlfriends, and that it mattered to my clients if I was okay. And I
Feel
know
that.
it sounds silly, but that was so meaningful to me. It just really gave my soul a reboot.
Well, I remember walking into your room after your surgery, and you were just smiling and laughing and having the best time. Everyone was coming to visit. It was like you were the star of the show, and it was the sweetest thing ever. But the other thing too is you got to feel the love of your kids, that
Yes.
they showed up and they said, we're here, you're important, you matter, we're not leaving until you're healthy.
And anybody who has grown kids knows what that means. They have their own life, their own careers. They both got on planes and showed up here at the drop of a hat and walked me through the worst parts of the whole journey. And there were times Gene was so exhausted from the whole thing, I would just send him home, and it was me and the kids, or you and me and the kids, there. And they really showed up when things were tough, that the one day that I was really having a lot of bleeding and feeling very bad the day after surgery. Sarah was there, and she's an acupuncturist. She's my 30-year-old daughter, and she was rubbing my feet and communicating with the nurses and checking on all these medical things that were going on. I was so impressed with her really stepping up to be a healer. And Kai, the businessman from LA, you know, the groovy, cool dude, he was having talks with me about how I was going to get through this and I was strong and he knew I'd be fine. I mean, he was coaching me. So I got to see both kids really in their adult glory, and that was magnificent, really.
It really is. And let's take a look for a second at their soul plan in that, right? Because their
Right.
souls also said, and if you have this challenge point, we are going to show up and love you and support you and shine with our strength and our courage in the ways that we can. So there were so many soul agreements going on with this one situation. Even every friend who showed up and loved on you and brought you a flower or dinner or whatever,
Yeah.
right? There were soul agreements that had been made all around this previous to this experience happening, and soul agreements that were made throughout this process.
Isn't that amazing? I mean, it just makes me love the human life again, the human journey, you know. And you and I work with grieving people all the time, and you can just, after a while, you kind of see grief everywhere you look. You know, you start really seeing other people's pain so clearly. And this whole experience brought me back to my angelic nature, which is just to see the goodness and the love in everyone and everything and every event. And so I'm so grateful for all of that. And even if I died tomorrow crossing the street, I would know that this has been a blessing for me every step of the way in these last few months. And Michelle, thank you for being my friend and walking through it with me. I really appreciated it.
It is an honor to be your friend and walk through this with you.
So anything you want to tell the viewers about your work, your website, how they can learn more about you?
Yeah, so you can find me at clare.net. I do in-person online sessions. I do group readings. If you're in the Phoenix area, come down for one of those. I'll be at the IANS conference with you, Sue.
Yes,
We have a
woohoo!
presentation there. I'll be doing readings for Helping Parents Heal conference. And so, yeah, there's a lot of ways to reach out to me or stay connected.
So you also do medical intuitive work, is that correct?
It is.
And I really think that's something people should be very drawn to with you, because you would tell me when you were working on me, well, you know, this part feels a little of this, and you kind of moved energy around in my body, just feeling into the organs and the energy. And it was so helpful. It was so good. So
Well, thank you.
clients need to go see you for all of your many, many gifts.
And I'm really good with the medical intuitive on animals too. I have a
Oh, yeah.
friend who called me and said, "Hey, my dog's sick. I think it's constipated." And the minute she said that, I was like, "It's its anal gland." And she took it. The anal gland had ruptured. It had to be on antibiotics and all of this stuff.
Wow.
But it's also really easy to tap into animal energy about what's bothering them.
Well, there you go, everybody. Go see Michelle, Michelle Clare. Did you say the name of your website again, Michelle?
MichelleClaire.net.
There we go. All right. And I'm Sue Frederick, SueFrederick.com. And we both have so much love and so many gifts to share with the world. It's been a real blessing. Thank you so much.